EPCOT is my least favorite park at Disney World. I get why people like it, namely the miniaturized sense of travel complete with cultural food and extreme drinking. I'm not really into any of that stuff now, but I have to imagine most children aren't either. Ultimately, EPCOT is a glorified edutainment park. Want to learn about the history of communication, or energy, or farming, I guess? I don't know, living with the land had me nodding off pretty quickly. But the answer is no. Kids don't want to come to Disney to learn, they have school for that. You come to Disney to be transported to the worlds of yesterday, tomorrow, and fantasy. And ride rides. We all want to ride rides. For the record, I have Animal Kingdom ranked at 3rd, a fun concept but too big for what it is. I don't always want a zoo with my theme park. Hollywood Studios is 2nd for me. I like movies, and Sunset Boulevard alone with Rock and Roller Coaster, Tower of Terror, and Fantasmic might be the single best area in the resort. And then first is obviously Magic Kingdom. No self-respecting Disney fan should have any other park on top. It's got the most rides, the best theming, that classic Disney feel, it's peak. As well as Disneyland. They are kinda interchangeable to me. Respect to the OG, respect to the West Coasters, but I grew up with Magic Kingdom and Cinderella Castle is objectively cooler than that malnourished Sleeping Beauty promotion. Oh, and California Adventure is the actual dead last, obviously. What's this video about again? Right, EPCOT. My childhood experiences at EPCOT usually amounted to riding a handful of good rides around the Future World section like Test Track, Mission Space, Soarin', and Figment. Yes, Figment is great, I will not take any Figment slander. And then my family would waltz over to the World Showcase where I just completely checked out. What a boring walk around a seemingly infinite lake as we all gawk at little dioramas of places I didn't have much interest in. It seems like Disney kinda knows that World Showcase has this mind-numbing effect on children because they've always implemented this little KidCot activity just to give us poor kids something to do. But a glorified coloring book can only go so far, especially with older kids. So Disney came up with something else, the World Showcase Adventure. This was a bunch of little side quests people could do around the World Showcase that activated fun effects or events around the different pavilions, with the whole thing themed to one of Disney's major television series. This was always one of my favorite things in the park, not just because it gave me something to do during the lengthy trek around the World Showcase, but because it was one of 2 things in the whole resort that was themed to anything Disney TV related. The other thing was the Disney Junior Dance Party, which, well, it appeals to a much more limited audience, if you ask me. But I won't deny how into this I was for a long time. I remember when it was Playhouse Disney live on stage and the main attraction was Bear in the Big Blue House back in the MGM Studios days. That was my jam. The World Showcase adventures were always themed around more popular cartoons for older kids, and thus come with a much broader appeal, as dorks like me still love these shows to this day. When the attraction opened in 2009, it was themed to Kim Possible. This lasted a surprisingly short 3 years, as the insane popularity of Phineas and Ferb took over in 2012. This lasted all the way until the pandemic in 2020, where the attraction went on hiatus before reopening in 2022, now themed to the DuckTales reboot. All 3 of these shows are fantastic choices, and I remember during each phase of the attraction's existence seeing plenty of people playing the game alongside me. Oh yeah, let me stress, I played the hell out of all of these. In fact, starting in around 2011, I collected the park guide maps every time I went to Disney so that I could have official records of how the parks used to be. I've got a lot of neat things because of this, namely a map of Magic Kingdom before New Fantasyland, Disneyland before Star Wars, Hollywood Studios before some of its oldest rides closed, though I never did get an MGM Studios map. But I got a Downtown Disney map before they changed it to Disney Springs, which is fun. Most important for this video, I've got maps that cover every iteration of the World Showcase adventure. So read it and weep, an official Kim Possible attraction on a Disney map. Here's my watermark so you all know these are mine. I got this from my sister-in-law last Christmas and I've been waiting for a chance to show it off. I should say before we get into the meat and potatoes of the World Showcase adventures that all the footage of these attractions that I'm going to be using is not my own. The Kim Possible and Agent P versions of this ride are fully defunct, so I'm scrounging up whatever footage I can find on YouTube. I will be linking the playlists of videos I used in the description. I would not have been able to properly research and make this video without this preservative footage. I'm not going to be going too in-depth on everything these attractions had to offer, so if you want to get the fuller experience, I encourage you to check these playlists out. Additionally, I ain't no Defunctland. This is a very unprofessional look back on a very unique piece of Disney history that I just wanted to rant about. I'm not going to go into the production of the attraction or anything like that. This is much more about my personal experiences and observations. Okay? Okay. Let's start at the beginning with Kim Possible. This might be an obvious thing to say, but this concept was designed for Kim Possible, and it shows. Scattered around the park were these little kiosks where you'd go and sign up for the adventure. Once you're all set, you would receive a personalized cell phone or communicator, where you would receive instructions on how to proceed. This is adorable. Right off the bat, it feels so much like they're putting you in the world of Kim Possible. Kim's got a communicator in the show, and while it isn't really a cell phone, the ride's communicator gives off that same vibe. It feels like you're using technology straight out of the show, even with the obnoxious Verizon branding. And it's all sold by that little jingle. You know the one.
So what's the sitch?
Nothing makes me feel more like I'm working alongside Kim Possible than hearing that jingle come out of my own personalized communicator. So the premise is that 7 of Kim Possible's villains are all hatching evil plots at the same time all across the globe, so Team Possible needs new recruits to lighten the load. You are one of these new recruits. As you travel to the different countries in EPCOT's World Showcase, you must complete tasks assigned to you by Wade in order to stop the villains' plans. These tasks usually amount to you just walking to a particular location in the pavilion, pushing a button on your communicator, and watching a little effect play out. It's not particularly revolutionary, but it's cute as heck, and as a kid, absolutely made me feel like I was a super spy. Or at a bare minimum, it made me feel like I was uncovering secrets about these pavilions that were right under everyone's noses. Even as a bystander, seeing these random effects go off without any context helped give these pavilions a little more life. That weird parrot in the cage will suddenly start moving and squawking. A stream will suddenly flow from the rocks in the koi pond. Smoke will emerge from this chimney in Norway. Whatever you do is always somehow justified in the story of the game, even if it's sometimes a big stretch. In an odd way, you are often positioned as secondary to the main characters who are doing the main bulk of the work. Because of that, despite the variety of villains on display, you don't interact with them a whole lot. Most of the time you're stuck with Wade as he gives you instructions, which makes sense in concept, but can be kind of boring if you're here because you really like Kim, Ron, and the baddies. That said, they really got all the hits with the villains. We've got Dr. Draken and Shigo in Mexico, Chameleon in Norway, Monkey Fist in China, Professor Dementor in Germany, the Killer BBs in Japan, Senor Senior Senior and Junior in France, and Duff Killigan in the UK, which has one of my favorite bits in the whole attraction when they suggest Killigan's last evil scheme involved a giant golf ball that still stands in the park to this day. Usually at the end of each pavilion's story, they'll show off their biggest effect to really make you feel like you earned something. Mexico has a rocket launch out of the volcano backdrop that comes crashing down. Norway has this poster tucked away in the back that reveals a full cutscene of the villain's defeat. China has this jade monkey statue rise out of the pond. Germany has a Professor Dementor figurine get chased on this... What are these things called? I guess it's a clock, but like specifically the things where figurines circle around. I don't know. Japan has this robot emerge in the middle of the store and get deactivated. France has a laser that gets deflected in the lens of this camera. And the UK drowns whoever is in this poor apartment. As far as I can tell, all the characters seem to have their original voices, and while the animation on the communicators is incredibly limited, these characters still feel authentically themselves, like you're playing through an episode of the show. It's all in the vibes, and every little piece of this puzzle contributes to the vibes immensely. I love how after every pavilion, you've got to drop your communicator into a little hatch, like you're abandoning a dummy phone so that the government can't track you. This is almost certainly done because each communicator is only programmed for one pavilion, but it's cute all the same. On to the Phineas and Ferb version, or more specifically, Agent P. Yeah, to properly contextualize the super spy stuff they already had going on, they had to very specifically use the secret agent side of Phineas and Ferb. This works fine, but it's definitely not ideal. I understand that Phineas and Ferb was one of, if not the biggest success Disney television animation had ever seen, so replacing the Kim Possible theming with it was only natural. But it does come off a little hackneyed and forced. Not that it wasn't still fun, but this was so obviously built for Kim Possible that layering Phineas and Ferb on top of it made the cracks in the system much more obvious. For starters, your communicator is now Field Operative Notification Equipment, or a phone. Yeah, the Phineas and Ferb sense of humor is out here in full force, which is good for the record. I'm more so complaining that the phone is just not intrinsically themed to Phineas and Ferb the way the communicator was. Like, sure, Harry has spy gadgets, including communicators, but I most distinctly remember the one in his watch, not anything that looks like a phone. Whatever, that's kind of nitpicky. How about the cast? Well, unsurprisingly, instead of a unique villain for every pavilion, it's just Dr. Doofenshmirtz all the time. I wouldn't really expect anything different from a Phineas and Ferb theme, but it does make each pavilion's adventure a lot more samey and repetitive than it already felt. And that's just sort of the nature of Phineas and Ferb as a show, extremely repetitive. I loved it as a kid, but got really sick of it because it just didn't change very much from episode to episode. And it's funny how they try to fit the whole conceit of a Phineas and Ferb episode into these little adventures. Since you're working for ALCA, the organization without a cool acronym, you're mainly following Major Monogram and Carl, but we always have to randomly cut to whatever Phineas and Ferb happen to be up to in this foreign country they happen to be in. At some point, Perry faces Dr. Doofenshmirtz, his innator somehow hides Phineas and Ferb's invention, Candace is embarrassed, they say, "Oh, there you are, Perry," and it all wraps up. To its credit, the World Showcase adventure does recreate the show pretty accurately, and much like the Kimpossible version, retains the voice work, style, and charm, but in this case I'd argue it's to a fault. That said, the most entertaining part about playing the different reskins of this attraction over the years is seeing all the effects they end up reusing. Since these were all designed around the Kimpossible storyline, they gotta write the new stories around the old effects. Sometimes this is absolutely hilarious. For instance, in China, Doof's whole plot revolves around pandas, and he hides something important that you have to go find, only to discover it's in the jade monkey statue. Apparently, Doof hid it in a monkey because we'd never think a panda-related device would be in a monkey. Of course, it's not that Monkey Fist was the original villain here and they didn't want to change the statue. Definitely not. Also, in Japan, Doof makes a giant robot that looks suspiciously similar to a certain Kimpossible villain. He also builds a Babyinator for reasons, and what do you know, right before the Baby BB effect from the last game is supposed to happen, Doof's robot gets hit with the Babyinator. I'm not even mad about this, I think it's absolutely hilarious. As a kid, it definitely broke immersion, but almost in a fun way, like I had the secret knowledge of what this used to be and could spot where they reused assets, like a little Disney detective. Not everything got reused though, some stuff got updated. This Germany clock thing that used to house Professor Dementor now shows Dr. Doof himself in Lederhosen. And some stuff was straight up added. The finale to France is way cooler now as you can spot Agent P himself ziplining from the Eiffel Tower. Also, this is something that was in the Kimpossible one too, but there's an interaction you have with a cast member during the game. You need to tell them a spy code, and in doing so they'll give you a necessary clue to solving a puzzle. That's some really cool spy shit that they didn't have to implement, and I like it. I can't imagine cast members like it too much, but it's absolutely a fun interaction for kids to have and incredibly awkward when you're doing it as an adult. And that brings us to DuckTales, the version I had to play as an adult that kept that cast member interaction, much to my utter embarrassment. I know I'm like a pinnacle Disney adult here, but a small ugly part of me is always way too self-conscious about stuff like this, and I hate it. At some point in the lifespan of the attraction, the Disney Wiki says around 2016, the dedicated phones for the game were done away with in favor of implementing the activity into the Disney Play app so you can use your own phone. I never played the Phineas and Ferb version of the game after this change was made, but the DuckTales version has always been done through the app. I don't like it. Not only does it strip away one of the most charming aspects of the attraction, but the app also sucks. It's really finicky and glitchy, at least it was for me. I couldn't even access the United Kingdom Pavilion game because it just wouldn't let me scroll to that option. This, to me, is the big blemish that forces me to still consider the Kimpossible version the best iteration of the World Showcase adventure. But DuckTales is still pretty fun. We get back to that expansive rogues gallery with Black Heron in Mexico, Heka in Norway, Toad Lu Hai in China, Magica de Spell in Germany, the Beagles and Mark Beaks in Japan, Goldie O'Gilt in France, and Flintheart Glomgold in the UK. I love how on theme a lot of these villains are for their pavilion. Kimpossible obviously had a couple well-themed ones, looking at Duff Killigan, but everyone for DuckTales is pretty on point. Which is natural because DuckTales is actually a globe-trotting show. There are episodes that take place in China, Norway, or the UK, so they bring in those specific villains from those episodes and it's perfect. What we lose with the spy element, we get back tenfold with a sense of adventure and actually thematically appropriate events pertaining to each pavilion. Not to mention that because your help is contextualized through an in-universe app the whole Duck family has access to, you are constantly chatting and helping out someone different. Whether it be Huey, Dewey, Louie, Webby, Scrooge, Donald, Della, Launchpad, Gizmo Duck, and so on. No longer are you stuck with Wade or Carl. And much like with Phineas and Ferb, if you're familiar with the previous version of the game, you'll recognize a whole bunch of the effects being reused. Though some specific ones like the Germany clock obviously get updated. Looks like Donald stole Doof's Lederhosen. Louie takes Perry's spot on the France zipline, a Webby robot finally retires the Baby BB, and there's a Flintheart Glomgold face on this globe here that replaced a Doofenshmirtz face. And once again, it seems that all the voice actors from the show return to really make the whole experience feel authentic. If you're hungry for more DuckTales content, you can't get much better than this. Assuming you can afford to get into the park. Maybe just look it up on YouTube. And you know, up top I talked about how EPCOT is an edutainment park and most kids can kinda see through that stuff. They know when they're being lectured. Well, the World Showcase adventure might have successfully tricked us into learning something. We are going out and interacting with these pavilions, occasionally getting a tidbit about kanji or the Chinese zodiac or Norse mythology, as part of our great adventure. This might be the most successful form of edutainment in the park, which is absurd. But I do have to ask, why update the World Showcase adventure again this late into its lifespan? I personally expected them to quietly shut down the Phineas and Ferb version after a while, but instead they made this extra effort to retheme the whole thing one more time. Is it just that they don't want these effects to go to waste? Sooner or later, the DuckTales reboot will be just as irrelevant as Kim Possible or Phineas and Ferb, so do they intend to keep updating this attraction with new shows as the years go on? Personally, I doubt it. With the way things are going in the world of TV, DuckTales feels like the last possible hurrah for this attraction. Maybe the ties to the Mickey Mouse brand will keep it going long term since that brand is perpetually relevant. I can't imagine the game gets played too much nowadays. With the lack of physical kiosks in the park promoting the activity, you're left to read a blurb about it on the guide map and fiddle with this obnoxious app. I'm sure most curious parents just give up before even getting started. But for what it is, I had an absolute blast with every iteration of the World Showcase adventure. It felt like Disney fully acknowledged their hit cartoons as part of the greater Disney family. It was something cool and exciting to do in the doldrum that was the World Showcase. It's probably one of the silliest little immersive concepts in the parks that was surprisingly effective, at least at the start. I know this isn't an incredibly long video. I don't have some great thesis about how this is secretly the greatest ride at Disney or how the new themes ruined a classic or anything. I just wanted to talk about a Disney experience that weirdly meant a lot to me, even if I barely got 7 pages of a script out of it. Things like this aren't gonna last forever. In the little over a decade I've been collecting maps, I've seen a lot of changes to these parks, and I get the sinking feeling that soon there won't be a blurb about the World Showcase adventure. It'll suddenly disappear and fade quietly into obscurity the way Sorcerers of the Magic Kingdom did, another one of my favorite odd little Disney activities. So I'm really glad they gave it one last shot here with DuckTales. I'm glad I got to play a game in a Disney park themed after 3 excellent shows. And I hope you're all glad to have learned a little bit about them. If you're like really glad, you can like, comment, and subscribe. Thinking of doing a little unscripted thing for my next video? We'll see how that goes. Thanks for watching and see you real soon.